for yourselves. And let's get started. When I joined Toastmasters, a club called Nürnberg Toastmasters in Nürnberg, where I live, 20 years ago now, I only knew one thing. I need to get over my fear of speaking in public. I need to stop my knees knocking. I need to stop shaking and shivering. I took the opportunity to join this new club, immediately became an officer, more by accident than anything else. And my Toastmasters world was very small. It was my one club. As time went on over the year, I became aware of a structure. Area, that means a club is part of an area. In-camera online Toastmasters is part of a worldwide organization. It's not just a club. The club is the most important unit in Toastmasters, but it's not the only unit. Over the years, that area expanded into a division. That division was part of a district. When I joined Toastmasters 20 years ago, there was one Continental Europe division, which was called District 59P. What was the P? The P was provisional because we were under the benchmark of 60 clubs. 60 clubs, and then you can take away the P, which we did shortly after I joined. Then we grew in continental Europe by leaps and bounds, so expanding. When I went to conferences, I met people from all over continental Europe. It was really fascinating. The first conference that I went to, there were 75 people there, and over the period of 3 days that I was there in Paris, I spoke to each and every one of the 75 people. An amazing experience. Every year the conferences got bigger and bigger because we added more and more countries like Spain and Portugal. Some countries had to be dragged in. Some countries really wanted to join, like Poland. And then we got to be too big because we're a voluntary organization, and somebody like Jochen Kunkel, who has volunteered to look after 5 clubs, would have had to travel wider and wider and wider, as I did when I was division governor and was in charge of 4 different countries. Then we split. Everybody was so upset. No, I don't want to let you go. No, I don't want to let you go. No, this country has to stay. No, that country has to stay. We were torn apart into 2 districts, District 59, District 95. That means the world contracted just a little bit, but very quickly we expanded again. And then we had to finally split into 6 districts. And we, here, in camera online Toastmasters, we are now part of District 95, which consists of 4 countries. Anybody know which 4 countries I'm talking about? Anybody? Steve.
I was hoping someone else would answer. Germany, of course. And then we have Sweden, Denmark, and Norway.
That's right. So we have contracted again. And when Steve and I were at the district conference in Lübeck in May, there were 90 people at that conference. Now, I didn't get to speak to everybody. There was a fire and there were all kinds of commotions, so that got in the way. But you see what I'm talking about? The Toastmasters world expands and contracts continuously, but it's very, very big. Now, where were you last night between 5:15 p.m. and 10 p.m.? Anybody know? Okay, no need to look at your diary. I know exactly where I was. I was at an officer's training session. I'm an officer in another club. I needed to be trained. So I joined a training in a different division in our district, because we are Division D, and I went to Sweden virtually to do my officer's training in Division B. Now, as I said before, I could bombard you with all kinds of facts and figures. I wanted to put you on that road into the Toastmasters world, but I will just read out 3 statistics, and I have to read them because I don't know it by heart. I heard this last night at the training. 282,055 members, Toastmasters members, in 14,749 clubs in 149 countries. Now, that sounds like an awful lot, but before Corona, it was much, much bigger. We have lost about 20% of our members and clubs. This means that at the moment, our huge Toastmasters world is not so huge. It still is very big. It has contracted a little bit, but has started to expand again. That's enough of me for the moment. Over to you, fellow Toastmasters. Questions, please. Yes, Pamoda.
Margaret, that was an inspirational journey, listening to you. Where do you see Toastmasters going in the next 20 years?
That's a very, very interesting question. And this is something that we discussed a lot during our sessions last night. There was a lot of toing and froing about online meetings, in-presence meetings, hybrid meetings. And the consensus was that our Toastmasters world is very traditional, but needs to change. For instance, the fact that we are meeting online, that we're from different countries and even different continents, is an innovation. Before Corona, the official Toastmasters line was no online clubs. You cannot be a part of Toastmasters and be an online club. No, no, no. Suddenly we woke up in March 2020 and realized, oh, if we don't go online, we're going to disappear, literally. And that's what happened to a lot of clubs who didn't go online because they couldn't or they didn't want to. They don't exist anymore. We need to embrace the future. We need to use technology. We need to use different meeting formats. If you go to different meetings in different countries, you will see that the agenda is not always the same. Oh, shock horror. How could that be? The way we do it in our club is the right way to do things. No. For instance, in this club, we have a good morning moment. How many other clubs have a good morning moment? I don't know any. In some clubs, you have a joke master. In some clubs, you have an entertainer. In some clubs, you evaluators. Some clubs, other clubs, you don't. In some clubs, you evaluate table topics, and so on and so forth. So we agreed last night that we need to open up our eyes to different formats. If we are to advance in the world, in the virtual world, and in the world that you can touch, we need to be aware of the fact that we need to develop. Did that answer your question, Pamoda?
Absolutely did. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Anita.
So my question would be, Margaret, with all the changes that we see and the necessary changes, I totally agree. So what will distinguish Toastmasters? You know, what will be the one, or the, like, let's say 2 or 3 things that will really say, okay, that's why we feel we are Toastmasters.
Thank you very much, Anita. This was also something that we discussed at great length last night. So why should you join Toastmasters and not do a Carnegie course? Why should you join Toastmasters and not go to an adult education presentation skills course? Why should you join Toastmasters? And more importantly, why should you stay at Toastmasters? We identified a few points that are extremely important and unique to Toastmasters. The one thing is the supportive atmosphere. Now, other clubs and organizations pertain to be supportive. Often they are not. Often it's about rivalry. Often it's about criticism and not support. The second issue, and I feel that that's the most important one, is immediate feedback. Where in the world do you do something and get immediate feedback? Very, very rarely. An aspect of feedback is you not only learn to accept feedback, to listen to feedback, to accept it as a gift, you also learn how to give feedback, which is a skill that most people do not have. I have spent my Toastmasters life trying to develop that skill. To me, it is the most important skill, and that is something that sets us apart from others. The third thing that we identified was our willingness to grow and develop, our willingness to kick our butts and get ourselves out of our ruts and say, okay, we always did it this way, but we're going to do it differently. We're going to experiment. We're going to try things out. And the fourth thing is we are so inexpensive. The word cheap was used several times last night. Now, to me, that has connotations, negative connotations, but we are so reasonably priced and accessible. We're accessible all over the world now because we are online, we're hybrid, we're face-to-face. Does that answer your question, Anita?
Thank you.
Steve.
Margaret, you mentioned conferences a couple of times and even referred to the one that you and I attended in Lübeck. I loved the times that I attended Toastmasters conference. It's really an exciting, engaging time. It's not always practical. When I look around the room here, yes, several of us are based in Germany, but I see France and Portugal and Scotland and England, and there might be more. It wouldn't be practical maybe for some of us to attend a conference in District 95. How would we find out about other conferences going on, or are we allowed to attend other conferences?
Thanks, Steve. Yes, this is a very interesting question because the answer is yes, we are allowed to, but how do we do it? At the moment, the international conference, which is taking place in Nashville, is online. This would have been unheard of a few years ago. This was a real no-no. Just like having online clubs. No, we are only able to meet face-to-face. And if you can't come, tough luck. Now, you can go online. You can, for a small fee, look at everything, be part of everything. And for no fee, you can do all the essential stuff like I'm going to do tomorrow evening, and Steve is going to do, and probably Jochen is also going to be there, attend the annual meeting, the annual business meeting, and some of us are even going to vote for different people and for different proposals. Before we went online, we had even more conferences. We had twice yearly district conferences, and I got to know so many parts of Europe just by going to Toastmasters conferences. Anybody can go to any conference if they have the time and if they have the money. And now most districts have realized that if they want to attract more people, they also need to be hybrid. Like the Lübeck conference was hybrid. So some people joined us they weren't actually in Lübeck, but they went to the gala dinner wearing their best clothes, drinking champagne and eating something good, while the rest of us were in the dining room. Or they were at the business meeting virtually. So actually the new world, the new order has expanded our possibilities to go to conferences. We can stay in our club and never go anywhere else. But I have to say, I learned so much by going outside my club, by going to area conferences, to division conferences, to district conferences. And I hope next year to be able to go to the international conference, which is always around this time in August. I think it's really fascinating to know that we are connected to so many people all over the world, 147 countries. Just imagine that. Did that answer your question, Steve?
Yes, thank you, Margaret.
Maria Luisa.
Yes, good morning. So I have a question there. When I joined Toastmasters for the first time, I heard talking about contest a lot. So I was wondering, in your presentation, you have not talked about contest. I would like to know more about it and your experience with that.
Did you say contests, Maria?
Yes, contest.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
Contest. Thank you very much. Yes. Some people love to perform on stage in a contest. And Toastmasters gives us the possibility to be part of contests, speech contests in our club, then to win and to go on to area level, to win and go on to division level, to win and to go on to district level, to win and to go on to regional level, and culminating tomorrow evening on stage and on screen, which is also a new thing, you will have people in a contest, in the international speech contest. I myself am not a contest person, but I know so many people who are. They love the excitement and the thrill of standing on the stage and being judged, not evaluated, being judged. So the best speech on the day, at the time, and then receiving that applause. So contests are definitely a way to grow for some people, not for everybody, but for some people. Maria Luisa, is there anything else you would like to know about contests?
Oh, no, I think it's clear. I think so. You have never participated. That's what it means.
Yes, I have actually. I have participated in contests, but contests are not what motivate me. I mean, I've participated in contests. I've won at levels and gone on to the next level. I've lost at levels and, bowed out. That's life. But for some people, being a contestant is a way to grow. And you need to know that about yourself. So am I that kind of person? I would encourage everybody to actually take part in a contest and find out. Where am I going to be this evening at 9 o'clock? I'm going to be online at the business meeting. I'm going to be voting for people and proposals. One of those people is our co-founder, Morag Madison, who is about to step onto the next rung of the ladder and be international president-elect. Where am I going to be on Saturday evening? I'm going to be wearing my best clothes, have a flute of champagne, and be online watching the international speech contest. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, join me. Back to you, Steve.
Yes, folks, please join Margaret. It's an incredible opportunity going on right now with the International Conference in Nashville. We'll post a